right, welcome to another episode of the LogiCast. My name is BlankaKong. I'm joined by Gunner Eos and Hollow Wolf today.
Hello.
Today's topic is going to be about Capcom, my favorite game publisher. And this article is from Bounding Into Comics, so a little different, but it is video game related. This article was published April 12th of this year, and the headline reads as, Capcom attempts to run PR for Western localizers, praises in-house team for keeping games, air quotes, culturally sensitive and, air quotes, promoting inclusivity through language and representation. My initial response is,
Oh, Jesus.
in case you didn't catch that, that was just me sounding like a fucking horse, because Jesus Christ, here we go again. Capcom, creators of great franchises like Street Fighter, Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, Mega Man, Devil May Cry, Onimusha, now they want to get into the whole, like, inclusivity shit. And here's my thing, right? I do believe that representation is important in media. I think it is, right? I think it's important for different cultures to be represented. I think we live in a global society now, and being educated and informed on other cultures, other ways of life, other ways of thinking, I think is helpful and beneficial to society as a whole, right? There are many people that I know, myself included in many respects, where if you had a globe in front of them, they couldn't identify the 7 continents. I could identify the 7 continents, but a lot of people cannot. And I think that's really bad. And that's, I mean, the bigger issue with that is the education system. But my point is, media maybe should pick up the slack when it comes to that. There are many countries I don't know the name of. Like, there are countries people say, oh, I'm from this country. I'm like, I don't know what you just said, brother. But I use those opportunities to learn, right? And so I'll just start with that. I'll start on a positive note. I think representation and cultural awareness is an important thing. However, I think people use the goodness of that as a guise to push other agendas and to infect certain pockets of society with, like, what they believe the world should be, right? And I think that's evil. That's like the other side of the coin, where they're doing it to just push an agenda, right? I'm not going to get too deep into that because that's a whole rabbit hole. I'm not going to. But anyway, Capcom localization team posted something on Twitter, and they basically broke it down into, like, these different categories. So, not just translating. Localization isn't just about translating words. It's about adapting the game for a global audience. Think cultural nuances, idioms, and regional flair. A good localization makes players feel right at home wherever in the world they are. Which I'm not, I hear it, I go, yeah, okay, I get that, right? Cultural sensitivity in characters. This is where it gets a little shaky. Character design and development must be culturally sensitive. What may not be accepted in one culture might be offensive in another. Localizers play a crucial role in ensuring the characters are relatable and respectful, avoiding stereotypes and other references that could be perceived as negative in specific cultures. That's rich coming from Capcom. Just saying.
Yes. I'm just, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the last one I'll read is inclusive language and representation. Localization efforts extend to promoting inclusivity through language and representation. This involves adopting not only the linguistic aspects, but also addressing gender-specific language, cultural norms, and diverse perspectives. The aim is to create an immersive experience where players from different backgrounds can identify with the characters and narrative. This can be very challenging for certain languages due to grammar. So there's a lot to read here. I'm going to link the article in the description for those who want to read it themselves. But I'll stop there, and I'll open the floor to you guys so you can respond to some of the things I mentioned, or some of the things you may have read that you want to talk about. So, where to begin, right?
All right. Yeah, no. Okay. So, if we're gonna just look at the 2 points that you mentioned, the not just translating point and the inclusive language and representation. Look, mine is a more since we're throwing around words, mine's a more conservative approach. Okay. Capcom is a Japanese game developer. These games are made by Japanese people in Japan. I feel that these games became popular because they were made by Japanese people, and that's why we liked them. The reason I was drawn to Final Fantasy is because I didn't see myself in Cloud. I didn't see myself in Barrett. I didn't look at like Costa de Sol and feel, oh my god, it's just like we're in PR. Oh, this game is great now. No, I played it because the game was interesting and it was different than what I'm accustomed to. That's why I'm gonna say, whatever. Correct me if I'm wrong, commenters. But like, that's why a lot of people got into Final Fantasy because it was distinctly Japanese. That is why we have a terminology called RPG, which is mostly for Western RPGs like Baldur's Gate, Fallout, Skyrim, and JRPG, specifically Japanese role-playing game, because they are so different from the Western RPGs that they are in their own category, and certain people like those types of RPGs better. So if you make it homogenous and make it for everybody, then these games become for nobody. Okay? And when you try to cultivate a fan base that is so huge, you're not going to appease everyone. You're going to piss somebody off. It's inevitable. So just make your games the way you want to make them with your sensibilities, and then when you hand them over to a Western translation team or a Western, localization team, just go, hey, look, obviously if you have to change some words around, like honorifics in Japan, that's not a thing we use in North America. We don't call, we're like, hey, BlankaKong-chan. Like, we don't use that. I get that. If you have to modify that, modify that. But what they're trying to do is make a game distinctly Japanese. They're trying to westernize it or even globalize it. And I'm sorry, dog, that doesn't work. Like, it just doesn't work. And we can see it with some of Capcom's games not hitting like they used to. I know I mentioned Final Fantasy, but if we're bringing it back to Capcom, Monster Hunter's been doing great for them, but with this type of thinking and this ideology, what's the new Monster Hunter gonna look like? We've seen they made certain changes to Street Fighter, not for the better. Everybody's, apparently they redeemed themselves with 6, and it's a pretty well received game from what I hear, which is cool. But I don't know, man. You keep down this path, there's gonna come a point where people go, you know what? I'm not gonna buy the next game. It has happened. So I'll just leave it on those 2 points for now.
I mean,
I'll
Zedekaiser
get
is
deeper
an
into
example
it.
of that. He didn't buy Street Fighter 6 because of the Kimberly character and how they went about creating her. So he's not here to talk about it, but I'll shine a light on it. But anyway, Wolf, you can respond. I didn't mean to cut in front of you.
No, that's fine. It's exactly that. That's the hypocrisy behind that, right? Like, let's take Street Fighter 6 for example. As a guy who does come from a Jamaican background, DJ is still not represented correctly. And I can tell you that because that is my culture. So I can make a list of more than 10 errors about what they think is a appropriate Caribbean male supposed to be or what he's interested in. And DJ doesn't fit any of that. Because first and foremost, not every Caribbean person parties. Like, music is a huge center of our culture. That is absolutely true, but that doesn't define our culture. And I can sit here and say in many levels, which is why I don't like DJ as a character, he does misrepresent my culture strongly. So to even come out with this article is hypocritical by far. It's extremely hypocritical. It's like, first and foremost, can any of you name an American character in Street Fighter that doesn't have blonde hair, blue eyes?
E-Viper.
Street Fighter, yeah. Sea Viper would be one. Balrog would be another.
That's it.
That's about it.
I think.
I mean, I'm sure there's more. Eagle,
Cody.
Eagle is
No,
British,
not Cody.
but he's also blue.
Because all the white males have blue eyes and blonde hair.
Correct. Yeah. For the most part.
The one for Third Strike. He was like a.
Not Alex.
No, this is gonna sound fucked up, but this is Capcom. His intro was him shooting a basketball.
Oh well, he's Brazilian. That's Sean.
Oh, he is?
Brazilian.
Oh,
He's
Sean.
Brazilian.
Okay, well, Japan doesn't
Brazilian.
like when Brazilian. You might as well be Hispanic at that point. So okay, sure.
You know, so like I said, it is really rich, and I do agree with Zeta Kaiser, with Kimberly character, because she, first and foremost, she's just off as a character of someone who's in my culture. She's just friggin' off on a lot of ways.
Well,
And
dive into that. I'd like to hear your opinions.
all right. First and foremost, what really annoyed me with Kimberly as a character was the blatant replacement to Guy, who was already a character.
You know, that
So
was my
Kimberly,
main
for
thing
me-
about that, and I'm glad you said it. But continue. Go ahead.
For me, she was like, you know, like how in Smash, in the newest Smash Brothers game, you know, you have Marth and then you have Lucina, who is exactly Marth. That's what Kimberly is on that aspect of Guy. She's just Guy. Guy would have had the upgrades that she have to match Street Fighter 6 speed and game mechanics. If they did not replace him with a black or a black American female, which I think they did that for the diversity and inclusion part.
Yes.
But why replace a character that's been around for over 20 years instead of just creating a new character altogether, new fighting style, and not imitating or not replacing a whole character, which does have his fans. He does have a fan base, and his fan base isn't necessarily going to pick up and like Kimberly the way they like Guile. Guy, I mean, not Guile, Guy. So it's the same thing for me, right? Like, yes, I know that Christy Montero in Tekken was a female version of Eddie, but now that they stopped using that character, Eddie was never a character that I liked. So I don't really care about his fighting style. I care about the character. So why would I buy Eddie on Tekken 8? I don't care. So for me, I can understand why a person who likes Guy, which I know Zedekiah does, already on that top of the list already is an annoying factor. Then on top of that, you introduce a black American female who's using spray paint to fight. Now, if you go back into if you connect it to our culture, we are known to spray paint walls. We are known to spray paint in, the shutter gates for businesses. We are known, it's a form of vandalism. Until someone can show me in some textbook where spray painting is, it's legal, it's a form of vandalism. So for me, anyways, yes, there are plenty of artists, professional artists who do get permission to spray paint and make great artwork out of it. I've seen many murals in Brooklyn, New York, of different artists who their pictures was put on the wall or put on the building through spray painting. But I've also seen many buildings, many more buildings in Brooklyn, New York, where the building was vandalized through spray painting. So
It's like a
I don't
9-to-1 ratio of like vandalism versus murals.
I don't. Right. I don't like. So that turned me off. And then Capcom has this idea that if you're dark skinned or you're Black American, you're some type of free spirit that just laughs all the time and just doesn't give a fuck about what's going on in the world. DJ, Kimberly, Sean, his sister, which was in Street Fighter Five. What's her name? Laura, I think her name was.
Laura's also Brazilian, I think, right?
Yeah, she is Brazilian, but I'm just saying overall with the dark-skinned
Yeah, that
characters,
trope.
it, yeah, that trope of
Elena's
them
another
being
one.
free-spirited. Elena is another free-spirit who's straight from Africa.
Yeah.
So explain that shit,
Beats in my head.
right? So it's like they have this one stigma that black people or dark-skinned people are party people who are just free-spirited people who just don't give a fuck about whether it's the politics or the seriousness of whatever situation they're in. And if anybody really knows the true lore of Street Fighter, any given Street Fighter game, maybe not this one, but to my understanding, every Street Fighter game, the tournaments that these characters are entering is serious. Their tournaments that they're entering or the fact that they're running into each other is not by chance. It's usually by force, by some higher power, whether it's Bison or Seth or, the Shadowloo Syndicate altogether, because these people are being tested for their powers to see what he can take, to see what he can use, to see what he can manipulate. So for DJ to consistently have this attitude where he's like, yeah, I'm just entering this tournament because I think I'm Jamaican and I want to have fun. Like, the fuck? That's insulting. That is very insulting. Because now you're saying that, what are you saying? That black people are not aware of their surroundings? Black people are not aware of their situations? Black people are not aware of their, of the scenarios that they find themselves in? Like, we prefer to just sing and dance and play steel drums. First and foremost, you'd be surprised on what Jamaican plays steel drums versus what Jamaican plays the flute or the guitar or the piano. So Kimberly, DJ in Street Fighter 6 is a big fucking hypocrisy to that whole fucking article from Street Fighter, from Capcom. So if they want to do proper diversity and inclusion, how about they send one of their fucking Asians down to Brooklyn, New York, spend a week out there to see how the African American culture really is, ask questions, interview people, see what we would like our characters to be represented in.
Well, it's funny you say that
Then,
because
after
apparently
that,
they had a committee
Oh, I was just about to bring that up. Yeah.
that okayed Kimberly.
For Kimberly.
So I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
that committee is not in touch with what actual Black Americans are. Is not in touch with actual Black Americans are. And if I see anybody other than Black on that committee, then to me that fails the purpose of the committee. I don't give a fuck. If you're Asian, if you're white, if you're Chinese, if you're Spanish, I don't give a fuck. If you're not Black American and you're on that committee and you greenlighted Kimberly, then that wasn't a committee for Kimberly.
Well, it's funny you say that. So Zeta's point, and I wish he was here to articulate his point. He was upset that there was a committee in the first place, and it sounds like you're upset that the committee maybe wasn't qualified to make that decision. So you guys kind of like exist on the different sides of the same on the same spectrum. Like that's interesting to me. But I don't know. I have no idea. I don't have details on like who was a part of the committee. They just and this was like a virtue signaling thing where they said, "Hey, we reached out to consultants about the Kimberly character to make sure we got it right." And I was a little like, okay, well, I doubt you did that for any other group. That's kind of weird, but okay, whatever.
It is definitely something that I concede Zeta's point on that, and I don't disagree with why he's upset on the simple fact that there's a committee to begin with, because in the end of the day, you didn't make a committee for Ryu characters or
I doubt they
Japanese
needed
characters.
to.
Right, I know they didn't need to, but you didn't make a committee for the Caucasian dynamic. You didn't make a committee for whoever is from the eastern side of the earth. You didn't make a committee for a lot of the other cultures that's in Street Fighter 6. But you made a committee and then you still ultimately failed, because in the end of the day, Kimberly does not represent what the African and the Black community is. She does not represent that. And the worst part is that you send this message out. Yeah, we are concerned about diversity and inclusion, but the point is that people of all cultures is diverse. You have free-spirited Japanese people who don't give a fuck about what's going on around them. You have free-spirited white Americans who don't give a fuck about what's going on around them. They just want to party and drink and do all the stupid shit that white people do, like jump off buildings and shit, right?
Jesus.
You have you have Hispanic people who care deeply about their community. You have Hispanic people who care deeply about their culture. You have Black people who care deeply about being successful, who care deeply about being a Ken Masters. You have Black people who care deeply about being a Guile and protecting their country. You have Black people who care about being a Chun-Li and being a cop for their community. So where the fuck is the Black representation in that aspect? Where is that? No. Instead, you have this big brawling monkey who thinks he's Jamaican, and then you have this little stupid chimpanzee who thinks she's Black American. And they both failed. They both failed the Black American community. They both failed the African American community, and they both failed the Black American culture.
So
this whole article to me is one big fucking hypocrisy.
it is. So what changes would you make to like the DJ character?
First and foremost, find a fucking Jamaican to play him.
So to voice him?
Get the accent right.
Okay.
Yes. Get the accent right first and foremost. And while you get the accent right first and foremost, how don't you send your PR team to Jamaica and see what Jamaicans are really going through? See what the island of Jamaica is really going through. The corrupt in the police, the corrupt in the government. How Jamaican people have to struggle just to get by. Maybe you'll then change DJ's attitude. Maybe he'll actually be a Jamaican who wants to come to America to do better. So he's actually serious on winning this tournament so he can take the money back home.
So
how about that? That's an actual situation.
No, that's true. They could have easily made him, and they could have kept the lore of the DJ character to what he was in the past, and they could have said that he went through some changes, and because of societal struggles, he wants to give back to his country and make him more a serious character. That would have been super interesting. But a character that I'm gonna just quickly pivot, and we can go back to it if you want.
Yeah, because I got thoughts.
So a character that I feel like they ruined, and this isn't Street Fighter, this is Tekken, is the Eddie Gordo character. If you follow Eddie Gordo's story, and Eddie Gordo is Brazilian, but still there's a lot of like Black fighting game players that I know that love Eddie Gordo, and they got into fighting games because Eddie was in a Tekken game, right? They felt like represented or whatever. He's Brazilian, whatever, but like you get what I'm saying. Like they saw him and they saw themselves in him, which is fine. And I always liked Eddie, A, because he was super easy, but B, because I thought his story was interesting. Like he was in jail and he was trained on capoeira in jail, and he escaped, and he wanted to like win the Iron Fist tournament to like turn his life around or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And like I always thought he was a cool looking character. And over time, especially in Tekken 7, they kind of nerfed him and just made him a joke character. And I'm like, damn, what happened to all that history? Like they just threw that out. And that was like super interesting, compelling. And he just became, oh, I'm just a capoeira guy. I'm just happy to be here, and I'm just gonna do my moves, and that's it. And it's like, really, bro? Like, and maybe they changed it in Tekken 8. I don't know. He seems more serious in this game, but I don't know, what his background is. But they kind of ruined it in 7 when he was like feuding with Lucky Chloe. I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is so stupid. And I felt the same way about like the Paul character. I felt the same way about Martial Law and Tekken. I was like, man, they're just ruining these characters. Like, they were so interesting, and then they just shit on them. And so I feel maybe there's like similarities or parallels between how I feel about that and how you feel about the DJ character and the Kimberly character. And the last thing I'll say about Kimberly is like, I feel like the most disrespectful thing when it came to that character's design was the fact that they didn't even give her a new template. Like her toolkit is a guy's toolkit. I'm like, are you serious? Like, You went through all this trouble to like make sure that she was air quotes culturally accurate, and then you don't even give her a new toolkit, make her own character. Like that's kind of weak, you know. But okay, whatever. You know, people are happy with it. They're happy with it. I have Blanka. I'm just gonna play with Blanka. But you know, I just noticed that, and that was like my point of contention when it came to this. But I know Gunnar has some points that he wanted to make, and then we can continue on with the DJ stuff, or we can like move on to some of the other diversity topics.
Yeah. So the whole thing about the representation, and it's just like they didn't get DJ right. Sorry, but it's just like this is a game where people shoot fireballs out of there. This is a game where a Japanese demon comes out and fucking 20 hit KOs me. This is a game where a German guy uses psycho energy to fly right. No, I don't want realism. All right, Street Fighter was built on stereotypes. It's not the end of the world. Like if it's that big of a deal, just do what you did. Don't play the character, don't associate with the character. That's fine. Like we used to come from a time where we used to play something and it's just like, that's a stereotype. I might not like it. Or the same person next to you goes, oh, that shit is fucking funny. Like, what is it like? Oh, America, it's just Statue of Liberties, cowboys, burgers. That's funny. It's just like, we didn't have to hire committees to have people go, well, according to Twitter, a black American needs to be interested in rap music, needs to dance, must spray paint, and must have a funky attitude and not take anything from no man. No, just make the character. Like, if you want like actual representation, you are free to make your own representation. Like this is coming from a Japanese studio, and they want to make the game the way they want to make it. I didn't hear anybody saying, "Oh man, well if Goku had a bit more melanin, I might associate with him more." No, they associated with the character because he represented something, because he was cool on his own. This whole representation thing, it started a couple years ago. Like, I don't like it. It's like every Hispanic character has been either Mexican or something to do with lucha libre. I don't care. If he's a cool character, I'm gonna use him. And if we don't want to have this conversation, don't put countries. Make everything fantasy. But that's what Street Fighter chose to do. They chose to make their characters representative of certain countries. It's just like that's just how they made their game. But now we have to run through committees. We have to make sure. Does the Black American, are they cool with this character? Can we publish it? How about the Brazilian? Are they cool with this character? Does this fit their criteria? This ever changing criteria? We're gonna put a LGBT character. Is this fitting your criteria, or were we a little insensitive? Were we a little bit bigoted with how we represented your character? If you're gonna try to appeal to someone, you are never gonna make them happy. So don't try and make them happy. Make the game you want to make, and if someone gets upset, let him be upset. At the end of the day, he or she has the opportunity to buy or not buy the game. Tired of this representation shit. Make the game you want and let people be upset. Because if your game does well, that guy who's upset, his opinion didn't mean much at the end of the day because the game sold well. I'll leave it at that.
And that's my issue with the article, because growing up playing Street Fighter, I never played DJ, not because he's a misrepresentation of Jamaicans. I never played DJ because I never got a good handle of what charge characters were. So with the whole hold back or hold down back and then move forward with the action, with an action button, whether it's kick or one of the punches or kicks, I think for him it's mostly kicks. I never understood that concept. So I never really played him or Guile or any of the other charge characters in the early Street Fighter days. But I left it at that because in the end of the day, I knew that it's a comical character. It is intended to be a comical character. He doesn't value much of anything else in the video game, right? So for me at that time growing up, whether it was Alpha or Street Fighter 2 or whatever other Street Fighter games that he was in, mostly the Alpha series, really. For me, it was just like, okay, he's another character that I cannot use because of how he's designed. But when you start to now, you want to introduce a new element into this fighting game or into this video game. When you introduce this new element, I'm going to hold you accountable to all levels of that element. Now I'm going to hold you accountable to DJ, because you're talking about you want to get all these different representations correctly, right? So get him correct.
I don't
That's
necessarily disagree
one
with
thing
that.
you
Right?
can
If you're
do.
gonna do it for one, you gotta kind of do it for all. Once you open that
You gotta kind of
box,
do it for
yeah,
all.
that was my
Right. You open that Pandora's
Mhm.
box. So now I'm gonna hold you as a fan of Street Fighter. I'm going to hold you accountable to fix the character that comes from my country. So before, if it was just more like if the article was saying, hey, we understand that, diversity and inclusion is something that's important to the community. We will do our best to represent. But in the end of the day, this is a video game that we envision just for people to have fun with. Street Fighter it has a multitude of a cast where anybody can pick up and play any which person they want. Then I would let that go, because what that's telling me is like, we're gonna we hear your thoughts, but the game is gonna stay the same. So I will not hold you accountable to fixing anyone, because in the end of the day, you're basically saying to me, okay, well, we're not gonna fix anyone per se, but we will try to add characters that will fit. So if they introduce a dude who refers to himself as she, and he's wearing, I don't know, pink bell bottoms and a tank top, okay, that's a very clownish representation of a homosexual, or someone who considers themselves um, a male who considers himself as a she instead of a he, or a non-binary, right? That's a clownish way of representing them, which is what I expect out of Street Fighter. But then you come out with this whole article and you're telling me, okay, we're doing this, we're correcting this, we're gonna stand by this. This is our new totem pole for how we represent our characters. Don't give me proper Ryu, but then you don't give me proper DJ, or you don't give me proper Dawson, or you don't give me proper Chun-Li. Don't do that. Like, that to me right there is now, it's a slap in the face to certain parts of your culture, of the different cultures that the game represents, and it also makes you look hypocritical to what your cause is. So for me, the word accountability is a huge aspect when you're a multi-million dollar company, a huge aspect when you're an adult, a huge aspect when you're putting things out for other people to see. Many people can hold me accountable for the things I've said earlier in this podcast, and they have all rights to, right? But at the end of the day, this is what I believe. If you're going to add diversity and inclusion in a video game, and you are going to make that a center thing or a very strong pivotal turn for your franchise, you got to get it right. You don't get it right for one character and then don't get it right with another character and then expect the community to not hold you accountable. That just doesn't work like that. That's where I come from. So that's why I felt passionate about it from earlier. I do agree that it's just a video game. And I do agree that characters should remain just being characters. But like you said, if having countries is going to be a big issue, make up countries. I've watched plenty of anime in my day, and I can tell you, they make up countries. They make up countries, right? Like, we'll know what they mean is Europe, and we'll know what they mean is America, but in the end of the day, it's made up. So you don't really get that sense of connection, because it's like, okay, this guy's from made up America, or this guy's from pretend England, right? But what I'm saying is that I do at one point, up until now, up until reading this article, I'm gonna not even say up until reading this article, up until the release, the trailers of Street Fighter 6, I never once cared that DJ was a misrepresentation of Jamaican, because at the end of the day, for me, I knew what his place was within the franchise. I knew what his place was. I didn't even play with the character. But now times are changing, and all these companies, these video game companies, don't want to keep politics out of their video games. So let's hold you fucking accountable to everything now. Fix it all.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that's expensive. They won't say it, but that's the truth. It's a thin line, and I'm gonna stand by what I said. I think a lot of people care about representation. That matters to a lot of people. Does it matter to me on a personal level? Not really. Like I play with a green guy. You know what I mean? Like I don't care. Y'all know me. I play the weird characters, or characters who I think are just cool. There's no, I'm Puerto Rican. There's no character that wears a Puerto Rican flag because that's a stereotype, right? Puerto Ricans like always fucking rock the flag, to obnoxious levels. But there's no character like that, like an old grandma who throws fucking slippers at their enemy and shit. Like I think that would be hilarious, and I would probably play with the character just because of the memes. But like, there's a lot of people who would be offended by that, right? I don't know, but it's a thin line. The whole like trying to appease everybody. I was gonna say, with Street Fighter 2, it was banned in certain countries because of the Dawson character. So like, misrepresenting certain cultures can have a monetary effect on your game, especially if your game is straight up just not available to be sold in regions of the world. That's money you're not making, dog. So I'm pretty sure they don't want that, and that's why they went the whole like, let's get a committee together for the Kimberly character. But I was like, listen, if you're gonna do that, like, you might as well just go all the way and like have a new character. Like if you're gonna spend the extra resources to cater to a particular group, it's like, well, come on, man, like get it right. But that's just me. And I agree. I think the whole just making fantasy countries would solve a lot of the problems, because then it wouldn't be so blatant. At least it'd be like, oh well, whatever. This character might be Black American, but I'm not too sure of whatever. Like it's whatever. They'll be more okay with it, I guess, or more oblivious to maybe hidden messages behind the design. I don't know. Well, let's move away from that topic, because we kind of got lost in a rabbit hole there, which is not a bad thing. But let's move on to another piece. Unless you guys had anything like a last minute. No, right? Okay.
No.
So this is a point that I kind of understand. Adapting humor and wit. Humor often relies on cultural references and wordplay, making it a challenging aspect of game localization. Translators must carefully navigate puns, jokes, and cultural references to maintain the intended comedic effect. This requires deep understanding of the target audience's sense of humor while staying true to the original wit. This is something I see a lot in anime, like in Japanese culture, from my understanding. It's like really funny for guys to like wear women's clothing, or for guys to like creep behind women. That's like a humorous thing. And in our society, in North America and Western societies, that's like seen as like that's a part of rape culture. Like it's like, oh my god, like how could you see women this way? And like it's like a big deal, right? And not that I'm saying, well, rape and sexual assault is a big deal. Don't misrepresent my words here. But like it's something as simple as like Golden Boy is one of my favorite animes that an old high school friend got me into, and like that anime is just filled with that kind of humor. But if I showed that anime, if you haven't seen Golden Boy, check it out. It's pretty funny. But it's a lot of like the guy rubbing his face on toilets that women have used and sniffing panties, and like it's a lot of gross shit that I would never do. I was like, why is he doing this? But like it was just like the situations were funny and the voice actors did a good job. But like if you showed that to like a 20-year-old who was never exposed to that kind of humor, they would probably maybe even be offended by it, like, especially if it was a female. I don't know. So that's one example. That's what I think of when I read this particular thing. So I kind of get it. Do you guys have examples of that, or?
Get over it. Like, don't watch it. Like, it's like this whole thing about you don't need to be. You know what? hot take, you don't need to be represented. None of us need to be represented. If you want representation, get on the fucking computer, make your own game. I want the Japanese to make games for the Japanese and then bestow it upon us out of their good graces. And if you don't like it, don't fucking buy it. They were
But
making money.
that's what they are doing. They are making games of their own volition and their own interest and their own point of view, but then it gets localized because people feel like the game should be localized because everybody wants a taste at the game, but then turn around and feel offended by what's in the game. So that
Hey,
creates that whole dynamic now of, well, I want to have my cake and eat it too. I want access to your games that you are making for your people, but I want it to be correct for me.
no, and then they do that. They do that. They go to people like Twitter. They go to people like Sweet Baby Inc. and all those other companies, and they go, "How do we make our games so America likes it?" Meanwhile, they think Twitter is America. That's not. Twitter's fucking mentally ill people who have nothing better
Hmm.
to do because Twitter's free. And then their games flop, they fail, and they sit there and go, "But why did our game fail? We made it like America wanted it to." Make the game you want to. And you know what? I hope AI gets better. And I hope AI starts localizing games. And I hope AI starts localizing them one to one so these shit ass localizers who want to put their own fucking quote unquote spin on games and anime lose a job and I get a robot translating one to one because I'll get what I want and they won't and they'll be out of a job. I hope and I pray AI takes your job because you want to add these cringe ass lines like, "Oh, the patriarchy looked at me funny today." That's not what the guy in fucking Taiwan and fucking in Tokyo said. He didn't say anything about patriarchy. Why are you adding your own stupid line to it? No, I hope AI takes your job. I'll give my lines to AI so they can
Well,
help
that's
with
the
it.
problem with
Fuck out of here with that
localization
nonsense.
teams, and at least now it's not like moralistic to where what Wolf was talking about earlier, where like if you're gonna have a committee and you want to be culturally sensitive and you want to represent all cultures in a positive light in your game, then you got to do the work. You got to, it's not going to take some half-ass attempt. At least that's what I got from what you said, Wolf.
Yes, that's exactly what I meant.
So,
Correct.
I'm not against that. Like, it's like, all right, cool, whatever. Like, if I get a better game out of it, then great. And if people will just not bitch about it, then even better. Like, to me, I don't like. I think for us, like guys being from our era, we don't. And correct me if I'm wrong. And I know I've had this conversation with Gunner, but like I think somebody mentioned Goku. Like, we don't relate. And there's a meme about Goku. Like, we don't relate to Goku because he's white or black or Spanish or Asian or whatever. Like, Goku, first of all, is an
Right.
alien. Second of all, we relate to his morals, what he stands for, his character. That's what we relate to, right? We relate to him wanting to be strong, him being strong, him being heroic, him being standing up for the good of humanity and all that. Like, that's why we like Goku. I'm a Vegeta guy, but I like Goku. You know, um,
But that's the thing. You relate to Dragon Ball Z as long as you understand the main concept of Dragon Ball Z, which is everlasting, ever changing to meet your new challenges.
right?
And that's why like a lot of people clown Dragon Ball Z because of the different many Super Saiyan levels. But the point of it is that you always have to push yourself. You always have to evolve in order to meet the new challenges that come your way. That is the
Yeah.
purpose of
If you
Dragon
had to
Ball
say it
Z,
in one
which a lot of
sentence, that's really what the show is about.
yeah,
It's about rising
right,
to the challenge and becoming a better you. Period.
exactly.
100%. I agree with that. But a
Mm.
lot of people get lost in the sauce and like, oh, it's just, male fantasy. And it's like, not
No,
exactly.
but meanwhile, fucking the retards go, "Mr. Popo's racist." Like, come on, man. Like, why harp on this like minor character because they just made him black? Who cares?
I think
Oh
the
my
people that do
god,
care
who
about that
cares?
hold these positions of power, and now they can kind of influence everybody, or at least try to.
Yeah,
But
that's exactly what's happening.
they're critics. Their purpose. They wake up in the morning and their purpose is to find something to turn negative, find something or find a negative in a positive thing. Like, for example, Um, I was on my lunch break earlier and I was just scrolling through Facebook and I noticed that there's a new animated cartoon, a 3D cartoon for Transformers to come out.
Is
And
this the one with gay Transformers?
gay Transformers? No, at least I didn't see any homosexual scenes in
Well,
it.
no, like
But
I think
it's
there was like
mhm.
I read somewhere there was like a binary joke or something, or a gay
Oh,
joke.
maybe there wasn't
I don't
there.
know.
Maybe there wasn't there and I didn't catch it. Maybe it was and I didn't catch it. But the basically it's literally like a Pixar movie. I don't know if Pixar is actually making the movie, but I'm just saying it's like a Pixar movie. It's fully animated. There's no human beings in it. It's basically telling the story of when Optimus Prime became where he went from being Orion Pax to Optimus Prime and the Megatron became Megatron. But it's done in a comedic way. And if you knew the Transformers storyline, Megatron and Orion Pax were friends at first before they became enemies. So the whole movie is obviously geared towards children.
Mhm.
Now I'm reading the comments and I understand that being a father. I'm watching the trailer and I'm saying, oh, I want to take my son to see this movie. That's all I cared about. That's it. That's all that was on my mind. This is an hour and 37 minutes. It's 137 minutes is probably how long the movie's going to be. And it's to spend time watching a movie about a franchise that I grew up on with my son. That's it because the movie is not geared for my generation, it's geared for his generation. But yeah, there are so many people who's complaining about the movie, how the characters are lame. They fucked up Optimus Prime. They fucked up Megatron. It's not right. This is blah blah blah. And I'm like, but it's not geared to you. It's not. You're an adult. You're in your 30s. You should not be on Facebook posting and complaining about a movie that's geared to your 10-year-old or your 8-year-old or your 9-year-old. You understand what I'm saying? I guess that's the mentality I went in because I'm a father.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of in that space already, right? So, but for me, it's just like I would never expect a Transformers movie that's geared towards children to be as serious as the original G1 movie was in this day and age. It's very different. So it's like people have to realize that things do change. Change happens,
Mhm.
yes. But what I'm saying is that these critics that's coming out now, they want to take every little thing out of a pot. Like the movie doesn't even look bad to me, to be honest. It's just not geared towards my mental maturity. And I didn't see a problem with it, but people are still picking at it. People are like, they're complaining and complaining and complaining. And that goes back to Gunner's point with Mr. Popo. Mr. Popo is a character who's, I can count on one hand how many scenes I remember Mr. Popo being in all 400 episodes of Dragon Ball Z. And it's like, he's so insignificant. He's an assistant to the who's ever whichever Namekian is looking over the earth at that given moment. But yet somehow people find the negativity in that and pull it out and make it a big thing. And this is what these people do. This is what they make their job be. Their job is to complain about something that
Create a problem out of
really
nothing.
doesn't even
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. You know, and it's that's just the way that's just going to be.
Well, not to be too self aware, but you said that 30-year-olds shouldn't be complaining online about Transformers movies, and yet here we are complaining about video games on a podcast that nobody watches. Um, so I don't know. I can't help but see that and go, huh, maybe we should go out and be trading
But
stocks or
but
whatever
it,
instead of doing this.
but it's not like Capcom is saying Street Fighter 6 is for younger or for
Right. That's the
children.
difference.
Okay, fair enough.
You
Fair
understand what I'm
enough.
saying? Like the movie came
Well,
out, it is
video games as a whole is
related.
seen as like, generally speaking, is seen as a childish activity.
Yeah, on a general level, it can be. You know, there are people who see it as a childish activity, but those are the people who are again, it's their mental space is not as broad as their. I'm gonna say it like this: their brain is not as evolved.
That's a
Because if you make
bold
fun of one,
statement.
if you
That's a bold statement.
no, it's true. It is true because I don't go around and say. People ask me all the time when I'm at work, hey, like Super Bowl Sunday can roll around,
Yeah.
right? They go, oh, did you watch the Super Bowl? My immediate response is, I don't watch TV. They look at me like they're crazy, like I have three heads, like I'm fucking King Ghidorah from the Godzilla series. Like they
Yeah,
look at
I
me
get
like
that
that,
too.
and it's like, you don't watch TV? And I'm like, no, I don't. So what do you do with your free time? Be a father. I don't got time to watch TV. You know, you understand what I'm saying? That's my response to people. And then they still look at me. But I don't go around and say, oh my God, you watch TV? Ew, you're killing brain cells. Oh my gosh. I have female coworkers who all they talk about is the Real
Reality
Housewives
TV. I
and
knew it. I knew it.
reality TV,
I
all that
knew it.
other bullshit. And I'll turn to them and be like, oh my God, y'all bitches are dumb. Y'all just killing y'all brain cells. It doesn't really teach anything. Watching reality TV, watching a bunch of hoes fight over rich men, it doesn't, or each other because of their ego. It doesn't do anything for their brain cells whatsoever. But I don't go around judging people for it. I don't.
Yeah, people do what they do
So
with their time. Whatever, it's your time.
people do what they do with their time, and whatever they do with their time, as long as it makes them happy and they're not hurting anyone, then to me, shoot at it, bro. Right? So, yes, if you are a person who thinks that anybody of any given age is enjoying whatever hobby that they enjoy, whether it's video games or going outside to play sports or staying inside to watch long hours of Housewives Club or Black Ink,
Black
go
ink.
ahead.
I did.
Black Ink is it's a reality show about tattoo
Oh, like,
artists.
it sounds like a tattoo
Oh,
show.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was thinking of like Black
yeah, it's
People
a reality
Incorporated.
show
I was
about
like, that's
tattoos.
kind of what? So that's new.
No.
All
Um,
right.
right. Like if you wanna like if you are going my point is if you're gonna criticize somebody for enjoying the hobby they enjoy, then your brain is not evolved.
That's fair. I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, me and Gunnar have had this conversation a handful of times where we talk about like our various hobbies, collecting video games or building Gunpla, or me collecting Monster Hunter statues, whatever. And I openly said like I actively try to catch myself before I criticize other people who do activities or collecting that I don't get or disagree with, like sneakerheads or whatever. Like I'm like I don't understand that, but like I'm not meant to. Like it's not for me, right? So you collect your sneakers or your hats or whatever, or for some of the ladies, I know women who collect makeup, and they have makeup dating back to the
A
70s
few.
and all this shit. I'm like, well, that's different. Okay, but like okay, like if you're gonna do that, then let me, like I should be allowed to have my little like dragon statue collection of Monster Hunter figures or whatever. Fuck it, whatever. But if I'm gonna do that, I can't criticize people like that. I have to respect their hobbies and just kind of ignore it and just let them do their own thing in their own space.
Yeah, that's all it is. And that's why I say, like um why I said what I said about people whose brain is not evolved. But in the end of the day, I think that I gonna I do agree with Gunnar on the aspect of we have to understand that the content that we want, we have to take in consideration what country it's coming from, and we have to accept the fact that this is the country's point of view. I love anime. I cannot watch anime subtitles, so I like them being localized, but I don't want my animes being tainted because of whatever agenda that the
Too
Western wants to
late.
pull and now affecting,
Too
you
late.
know, what anime I want to watch.
It's
Right,
it's
which is too
happening.
late. And this is why like my shift in anime has dramatically changed because I realized that if you know what genre of anime to watch, it's pretty close to what the original content was, um, which is the more cerebral animes. Um, I've seen myself watching more and more often now. instead of the basic action ones, which to me is just overdone. And
Thrillers and crime
then
dramas,
the
right?
comedy, right?
Those are
Exactly.
fucking. I could get lost in that
You know,
stuff.
those are right. Those are the ones that's really like more stuck to the main content because in order for it to work, it has to translate properly. You can't change it, or else it'll just not
It's
make
also an age
sense.
thing. I
A
think
lot of
you getting us getting older definitely changed our taste a bit, or a lot.
oh yeah, definitely, definitely, because my patience with crazy action scenes like My Hero Academia is no longer there. It's
Yeah.
right now it has to be more cerebral. The characters have to be more calm. um it has to make me think while I'm watching it, so it's you just have to, I guess, you have to take the good with the bad, um and just try to pick whatever you can get, or just pick out what you can tolerate and what you can't tolerate and move forward with that.
So, just to kind of put everything in a bow, it's safe to assume that you guys disagree with this whole idea of a localization team with these like morals in place. You guys would rather just let the developers develop, and whatever comes out. And if it's successful, great. And if not, then all right, we just won't do that again. Is that a
Yeah,
fair
this is a
Yeah.
assessment?
constraint. Yeah, this is a constraint. That's like, why are you putting shackles on your guy, on your development team? Why are you putting shackles on your creators? Don't put shackles on them. Let them do what they got to do. There's going to be groups of people that like it and groups of people that hate it with these or without these constraints. So just let them be.
I don't
It's
disagree with
proven
that.
time and
I
time
mean, it
again
works. Like
that
the older stuff is better than the newer stuff. So
yeah, because back then, like, they made Devil May Cry, they made Resident Evil the way they wanted to make it. We didn't have to go to like, okay, so how does a small town in America work? We want to make sure we represent the streets in Resident Evil 2 properly. Are these the type of stores that show up in small town American city in the mid? No, they just made it. And if you got offended, go fuck yourself. Like, don't play the game. Like, I keep telling you, these people don't have money. These people on Twitter who are saying, I need the Street Fighter character to look like this, they never had the money for a PlayStation 5 or Street Fighter 6. They didn't buy your game. They use Twitter because it's free, and they got it on their Obama phone. Like, these people don't have money. Stop catering to them, because then you're going to sit there with a question mark over your head. Why did our franchise fail? Why is nobody buying our game? We did everything Twitter told us to do. What do you mean our
Right.
stocks have plummeted? Huh?
And this is why I love the group of friends that I have, because Sheva never once bothered me in Resident Evil 5.
Oh,
I
but
know
don't
there
you
was
know
some
she's
type of
racist
racial.
because she dresses an African? Aren't you offended?
Right. Like, I knew there was some type of racial controversy with her. She honestly never offended me in Resident Evil 5 because for me, diversity and inclusion in video games wasn't a thing then. So I just thought of her as a character who was smaller than Chris. I liked using her because she can get into smaller corners and it was easier to evade enemies because she's a smaller model than Chris. But to me, I didn't really see a difference in her. She was just an avatar that I used to come to accomplish the game. And then even watching you guys, I think I had watched BlankaKong play a little bit of Resident Evil 4, and I found it hilarious because every time an enemy come out, they be like some blah 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 blah, and I turn to him and I'd be like, "What he said?" And then he would translate for me. And I had a blast out of that. Every time he come across a new enemy, I turn to him like, "Yo,
you
what
call
he
me a
said?"
motherfucker, bro.
Like,
And then throw an axe at me. Can you believe this shit?
you know.
Yeah.
And that's the correlation. Now, like, again, you put all these shackles on your guys, that means that I'm going to hold you accountable to those shackles. So if another Resident Evil, I don't know, Resident Evil, what number we're at now, 9, 10?
Would
We're
be
headed to 9.
be 8. Oh,
8
wait.
was
Oh,
Village.
8
Yeah.
was
So
yeah.
we're
Yeah,
headed
right.
9. Mm-hmm.
9. So Resident Evil 9 comes out and we got a side character and he's like, "Yo, nigga, did you see that zombie over there? Yo, shit, that fucking shit is crazy." Like, I'm gonna be highly annoyed. I'm
I
going
don't
to
know.
be
I would
highly
kind of
annoyed.
embrace it because it's so different. I'm like, all right, well, this is new. All right.
Like you got a whole character using the calling every zombie he come across this nigga, this dead nigga, this dead motherfucker.
I would be
Like
okay
just
with
like
it
how
only
I
because it's
mean
new. It's like, all right, well, shit, I've never played this character before.
now would I find it funny? Of course I will find it funny, but again, I'm gonna hold you to the constraints of what you put your developers on. You understand
They
what I'm
would never
saying? So
though. They
like
would never
don't
do.
right,
They
don't
would
come
never
out.
do.
Yeah, I know they won't because obviously it's an offensive word by many. But I'm just saying, it's like, don't do that now. Like, if they did that when when Resident Evil 5 came out, I would have loved that character because that shit is hilarious to me, right? But now, with all the shackles that you want to put on, now I'm gonna hold you accountable, and let's see what you do with that. Like, that's the difference
To me,
there.
the
It's
problem is the intent. The intent isn't genuine. That's the real issue with it. Like, I'm gonna stand by what I said in the beginning. I think representation can be important because I know people who care about that stuff, and not just girls either. I know it's more of a guy thing to be like, I don't care, and it's more of a girl thing to be like, I care about that stuff. But I know guys who like, yeah, like that matters. Like, it makes me feel seen or whatever. And do I agree with that? Not real. Like, I don't see the world that way. I don't really care. Like, to me, it's like I grew up in New York. Like, I grew up in a very
urban.
urban, diverse setting where I met all kinds of people from all parts of the world. So for me, it's like people are just people, you know. And some people have tendencies that others don't, and vice versa. Whatever, right? Like, I'm not gonna pretend like stereotypes don't exist. Of course they exist. Yeah, of course. But like, I'm okay with all of them. It's like, whatever. I don't give a shit. Like, if you're not ruining my day, whatever, dude. Do what you want to do. But the problem I have with this particular, like, this PR push is that they're not doing it for the right reasons. They're not doing it to have like a more unified world in their game, or to create more unity in the gaming space. It's literally a cash grab, and it's social points. They want to be seen as like virtuous, and it's like you're a fucking liar. Like, you're a fucking scam artist. But I don't know. I like when things get mixed up. When Sheva was introduced in RE5, I was like, that's cool. Like, you get to play with this chick from Africa. Like, that's pretty dope because it's in Africa, so it makes sense.
Well,
Makes sense to me.
I'm sorry. We can't shoot Africans in Africa
Don't,
because
bro.
that's
That
just
shit is crazy.
racist.
It's like, what do you expect?
So let's add the random Asian guy because he's gonna be living in a Republican village. Yeah, okay, buddy. Whatever. Like, but when we were slaughtering people in Spain, it's all good. It's all good. They're funny guys with the funny Espanol in hoods. It's all good.
Yeah, I didn't get offended with 4. I was excited to see like Spanish speaking fucking zombies. I was like, that's kind of cool. But like, I have never met a person, because like a Spanish stereotype would be like Spanish people are super religious, which is true, bro. Like, you go to any Spanish grandma's fucking house, they got the fucking shrine and all the crosses and the statues. Like, what are you talking about? That's real, bro. But like in RE4, they had that. Like, it was really based around religion. Like the zombies were a part of a cult, and you know, it was all religious stuff, and like there were shrines in the houses and stuff. Like, it was very like, wow, I'm in Abuela's house right now. Like, I kind of feel at home. Like, but I didn't get offended. Like, oh, this is how you see Hispanic people. It's like, I don't. Maybe you do. I don't. Ever. I don't care. Can I shoot now? Can I? You know? Can I move? Can I play the game? Like, that's really what I care about. But I know that it's important to some people, like legitimately important. So, you know, I get it. But I think the people behind the movement, they're not doing it for the right reasons, which is what alluding to what like Wolf was saying about, if you're gonna do it, don't do it half-assed. Like, go all the way and really do your research and like do it justice, and don't make this half-assed attempt for social points and increase your sales on people who probably don't know any better, or people who just won't buy your game in the first place. Like, even if you added all this extra stuff, like, you know, some people will be like, oh, that's great, thumbs up. And then you don't see a spike in sales. It's like, well, shit, what happened? So, yeah, if I had one message to Capcom, if somebody were to hear this and like pass it along, the message would simply be, guys, just let the creative people be creative. Let them make. These people know what they're doing. Like they're in the position for a reason. Capcom is an esteemed publisher and creator of games for a reason. Let them cook, as the kids say. Just let them do their thing, right? Like, trust me, I don't think you would regret it. Like, there's a reason why Capcom is like regarded as like one of the top game makers, especially now since their resurgence after RE7. Let them make their stuff. Like they have yet to blunder a major release. I think maybe RE3 remake and maybe Mega Man 11 didn't do so hot, but like overall, everything that they've made over the last 6 years have hit really well. So I don't know. Any final thoughts before we head home?
Nah, I feel like I'll rant too much, so I'll just leave it at what I said.
And I think you summed up my point pretty solidly, so I'll leave it there.
I'm scrolling down in this article, and then it's like the Armika butt slap has been removed from Street Fighter. That's such a fucking crime. Why would you do it? Like
All those women Street Fighter players that were being disrespected every time they booted up Armika. Clearly.
yes,
I mean,
those, huh?
her ass, her cheeks is out for a reason. You don't think she's gonna
Nah,
slap it? Like,
no, can't.
Shit, play me some Armika. I'm just saying. Well, anyway, with that being said, for those listening, if you made it this far, thank you. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed, and dislike if you didn't. Subscribe for more content. We do podcasts every single week. Publish every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. So subscribe so you're notified when that goes live. Check out the description down below for the article as reference so you can read through it yourself. You'll also see our social media links as well. So there's a Facebook, a Twitter, an Instagram, a TikTok, as well as a Discord. There's also a Twitch link to Mr. Esoteric's Twitch stream. He streams 2 to 3 times a week, and he streams a variety of games from AAA to retro. So definitely give him a follow. Check out his stream. That being said, guys, thanks for a great conversation. This was a fun, interesting one. And we'll see you in the next one.
Till next time.